The reality is, I think a lot of us too have to just continuously recognize many of us didn't grow up with understanding this because our parents were never taught this and didn't grow up with understanding this. Like I'm not a fan of playing victim to what we didn't get, because we all could go down that path, but you can't be a victim and a victor at the same time. So even though we didn't get something, just means, well, thank God that we are learning it now.
Hello everyone, we are Greg and Jacquie Francis, and welcome to High Performance Parenting, where our passionate goal is to encourage you to raise champion children in a crazy world. Every week, we will bring you multiple episodes from our extensive experience of raising our six happy, healthy, successful, godly kids who are confidently equipped to win big in life.
We deeply believe that any parent who is provided with the right knowledge and continual support can raise amazing kids. And when they do, all of our futures get better. If raising up future generations of absolute champions matters to you as much as it does to us, here's how you can contribute. Like and share this podcast with everyone you know. And together, let's embrace this journey of raising champion kids in a crazy world.
Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast today, episode number 9. And today we're going to kind of do a wrap up. We've been going over the 5 love languages with you guys for the last couple episodes. And today we're going to kind of go over some nuggets, key points of how maybe you can take some of this information and apply it.
Yeah, so let's get practical for a little bit here. I mean, we went through some explanation, let you have a little bit of a peek under the hood into our life and some of our kids' love languages and some examples of what we do and don't do. But step 1, I think, for anyone who's listening to this, is get the book. Get this book, The 5 Love Languages for Children, by Gary Chapman and Ross Campbell. It's, as we said prior, it's a good book. In particular, our suggestion would be to focus on learning and educating yourself on what these love languages actually are. Really getting a grasp around how everybody has a different way of love being received. There's a different literal language that they receive it. And just because someone else speaks a different language or receives a different language doesn't mean that your language is better than their language, and you have to really honor that. And again, it starts with the fact that just recognizing that God made us the way he made us. And I think if we're dishonoring and questioning that someone else is different than us and putting them down because they're different than us, then I think we're dishonoring God himself, right? And so the first thing, get the book, really get an understanding of it. Of course, you want to start between you and your spouse. If you and your spouse aren't filling each other's love tanks effectively, you need to work through that. Like, you need to take some time, because it all it's like the whole concept that you have to put your own oxygen mask on first in the airplane before you can help your kids, right? Well, if you guys are at odds like crazy because your love tanks are empty, you're not acting like healthy people either then, and you're going to have a hard time, really raising up champion kids when you're not a champion yourself, right? So you have to take some time and learn that. But then, of course, with each of your individual children, however many you have, then really take the time to try to understand their love language and their needs and write them down, and if you're wondering what they are for sure, do what we've done. There's a section in the book that really asks a lot of great questions, and you can ask them to your kids about what would matter more, and you'll find out what would matter more. It's kind of like, would you rather have, I think Bella was asking Drews today, because he was trying to figure out what his secondary love language was. Is it quality time or words of affirmation? And Bella was like, so Drews, would you rather have someone actually come and watch you play football and talk to you about football, or would you rather have someone probably give you like encouragement and words of affirmation and talk about how great you did afterwards? You know what I mean? And it was like the difference between a quality time or words of affirmation. He's like, probably somebody, actually edify me and affirm me for it. And it just points it out, even though he kind of has both. It lets you know which one's more important than the others. But then write them down, parents. We have a little notebook here where we try to keep these things in mind of what's each of our kids. Obviously 6 kids, we have to be pretty on our game with busy lives and everything. But I will tell you, the one thing that's very encouraging, hopefully it's encouraging to you all, is that when you start getting this, it's amazing how healthy and full your kids can be and confident they can be on minimal effort in comparison to if you don't know these things, right? So, I mean, if you have a kid whose love language is gifts, but you never get them gifts because you're not a gift person like us, instead you're doing things like touch and, telling them nice things. and they're not acting normal, well, it's because you're putting all this energy and effort into doing things that isn't even their language, right? But the other side is, I go on a trip, I come back, I remember to get the simplest little thing from the store in the airport, and I give it to my gifts love language kid. It's amazing how they'll put that on their little shelf, and every time they look at that for the next half a year, they feel loved. That dad thought about them, cared about them when he was gone. It's almost like they were with me on the trip. So that's just like one example, but it's so important to think this through and then to have an action plan. And I would suggest that as parents, you guys, tag team this, right?
I think that's the key part in this. If I can just jump in real
Sure.
quick, is parents can tag team. We're not expecting one parent to do everything for their child and, have the time to do it all or even the energy sometimes to do it all. It's definitely a tag team at our house. When one child needs something, first of all, we let each other know, hey, I think Bruce needs some one-on-one time with you, Mom. He just wants to run some errands, hold his hand, and just tell him.
Well, I mean, you're doing that right now, right?
Yeah, actually, in a couple of days, him and I are going and running a couple errands together.
Yeah.
And,
But here's an example, though, of like filling a need for his love tank. You not only are going to take him that day on whatever, say 3 days from now, but you told him about it like yesterday.
Right.
And so now he's looking forward to it for like 4 days in a row. And he's been acting different, hasn't he?
Oh, my
He's
gosh.
been so much more loving.
He's so
and
happy. He's giving me hugs, his bear hugs.
You haven't even done it yet, but he knows it's coming. See,
Right.
that's just like an example of how minimal time effort that takes to do something you're going to do anyways, but we understand it's part of his love tank.
Right.
And so it's being filled, and now it's so cool to watch.
Right. And so, or if there's something I know that one of the kids needs, I'll be like, I think it's time that maybe, Greg, you take Belle up and, grab a coffee with her and chat with her and have a little quality time with her. Cause I think she could use a little quality time and, enjoy that time, not only with you, but, take the time for her, you know? So I think, again, it's tag teaming, it's talking about it. That's one thing in our house that we've made a commitment to ourselves is to make sure that when it comes to parenting, we're going to work together on it.
Yeah, I will spin off that too real quick so I don't forget, but also tag teaming it in a positive direction to accomplish filling love tanks, but also don't compete.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, because you could see that. I could see especially someone maybe only has like one kid or something like that, right? And you have this super need of your kid like liking you and everything else. And so you're like, oh, I learned this love language. So they have a gift love language. Now I'm getting them a gift every single day. That isn't, you can almost overdo it. Or you can be like, well, I'll get the gifts, but I don't want Jackie to get the gifts because I have the need of feeling needed, and all this stuff. So it's a matter of just in a healthy way, filling love tanks in a way that makes sense, right? Do you want to add something?
It was right before this and you jumped in. I can't remember what I was saying. So I'm like, but I'll move on to one of my
it'll
points.
Come back to you.
Yeah.
Okay. I do want to add another thing about being a tag team, though. I'll give you a chance to think about what you're going to say. Because remember, by the way, we were talking about parents tag teaming together. But you got it?
Right. So one of the things, too, was that I was thinking about with that tag team episode is to understand that your kids always want you to tag team. They
right.
want to know
Man, brings safety.
that
security.
Mom and Dad are like, so, when Mom's doing for them something, they know it's Mom and Dad doing something for them. If Dad's doing something with them or doing something for them, it's Mom and Dad doing it. It's never just one, because we never want our children to feel like they have to choose a side or choose a parent or feel like they have to, work harder for either one of our loves or anything like that. And with that comes me and Greg being in communication, where if we can remind each other about our kids' love languages, sometimes, especially when they maybe act up or something like that, to remind each other, it's no excuse what they did, but I got to tell you, we haven't really filled this on them, either one of us lately. So let's make sure we do that, because then maybe, we can just see them come back to the real them versus behaving in a way that's not becoming of them.
Right.
And I think that's so important too, because we need to help remind each other. We're on the same team. That's
right.
the biggest thing. And I think that's one of the things that our kids most love. In fact, we'll talk about it more down the road when we chat with you guys. But, our kids, they never question that Mom and Dad have the best interest for them in all aspects of their life together.
Well, and for us, and we'll go through the whole goal setting and family team
Right.
meetings and stuff, and our standards in our house that we constantly put in, because all that stuff adds up. But one of the things we do is we always do goal setting and game planning at least once a year with our family. Mm-hmm. And one of our main goals in our family is that our family is always more closer and deeply connected every year.
Right.
And then we set up like, okay, well, how do you make that actionable? How can we at the end of the year actually say we did things that make that happen? And like one of those things is that everyone understands each other's love languages, and we proactively work to fill them. See, so it's not just Jackie and I tag teaming love languages in our household. We did that for a while when they were younger, but now as they've started to get old enough where they can understand this stuff, we've taught them this stuff. We have them read this. We go through and have fun explaining this. We do the evaluation. We make sure they all know each other's love languages, because then they don't try to compete for love languages, and say, okay, well, if Ellie likes gifts, then I'm going to all of a sudden want gifts every time she gets them. No, they get it. It's her love language. Well, Druce likes touch. So, but maybe let's say whoever, Bella or somebody that's not her main thing. So, okay, so if we're sitting on a couch together doing something, watching a basketball game, then it's okay if Drew sits on my lap and Bella doesn't have to feel like she's any less loved, that she's not.
Right.
So it's like, because they understand these things. So it's like, don't think your kids can't grasp this. Man, our kids have known this since probably, 7 years old or something? Yeah, because
they don't compete for it either then. They know theirs is going to be filled, and that they don't have to be in competition.
Theirs is going to be filled, right, by you, me, and each other. Right? That's the key. And because they are being filled, they want everybody else to be filled.
Well, that's truly it, though. And that spreads even outside our family. Yeah. Our kids, they feel so happy about their love languages being filled that when people come over and they get to enjoy the presence of our home or play at our home or have play dates at our home or whatever the case may be, and typically when other kids come over here, they love it. Who doesn't want to be part of the party here with 5 kids and all the new toys and everything else under the sun? But if we are giving love to another child by giving them quality time or words of affirmation or giving them a little gift, our kids are not threatened by that either. Just like you gave the example on the basketball court of a young kid, Drews was not at all threatened by the fact that you were helping another child do well. In fact, he was like, that's awesome. Yeah. My dad's building him up too. Let's go win this game. Yeah. And so I think that makes all of
our... and he even told me, like Drews, who at the time right now is, 11, he even told me, he's like, that is really cool how you treated Sal. Right. And I'm like, yeah. I said, why? Because I like to hear the kids talk. He said, I just think Sal probably has a words of affirmation love language. Right. And I could see how much it made a difference on him. I'm like, you're so good. You're 11 and you get this. So he's becoming aware of people,
And how to connect to people too, because I was just with the girls last week and they were by the pool with one of their friends. And one of their friends kind of started talking about school, just like looking them in the eye. Didn't want to even go swimming, just wanted. And later on, again, they were like, it was so cool to know her. Obviously, her love language was quality time, Mom, because that's not that child's number one love language. But they did it for this other child because they recognized that their friend needed it. And so they slowed down to give a love language and give it to somebody else, fill somebody else's love tank. Right. And I just think, again, isn't that what we're supposed to be doing? Is teaching our children how to make this world a better place. And it means we have to equip them with the knowledge so they too can go out there and do it for others. Yeah. And that, later on shows great relationships they're going to have with other people. It helps them feel confident in what they're doing, what they're saying to people, how they treat people, how they engage with people. If they see that somebody else really enjoys a gift, they will decorate things for them and make a bag of goodies for them and maybe hand deliver it to them, because they understand, I think that person's a gift person. Every time I see them, they bring me a cookie or they give me a coloring book or they give me a card. I'm like, well, maybe you should do one back to them. Maybe we should make a little gift for them. Yeah. And it's just expressing love outside the home.
Yeah. I think another really important point that we've done that really works well in our house is we have given our kids not only permission, but have helped train them how to communicate to us when they feel their love tank is empty. Right. Instead of just kind of holding up and feeling disconnected. And, we actually encourage them. It's kind of like the thing with Abby where she'll come up and say, I need a hug today.
Hugs are important.
Or I will tell you, like, there's certain things that she does with me that I've encouraged her to do that some people would probably think is weird. Like, for instance, if we're sitting next to each other sometimes, and I could even be like holding on to something on my lap, and she will literally like reach her hand over and take my hand, right? It's like, she knows because she's so secure in this and that our intentions are to fill her love tank, but I just might not be doing it at the time. So she'll take initiative and she'll be
Yeah.
like, I know you should be holding my hand, but I'm going to make you right now.
Right.
And I don't even care. And I always, usually when she does it, I
right.
always just like, I'm like, thanks, I need it. And I would just make a little joke like, I needed my hand held too. And she'll just giggle.
Well, and on that point though, is one of the things I think is so important is to never make fun of anybody's love language.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like the thing you don't want to do is when she does that, be like, why do you always need to hold my hand? I'm in the middle of something.
Yeah. Or even between each other, right? Like, so let's say with Abby, she comes up, hugs is important. How it would not be right for us to say, Bella, why don't you ever need hugs?
No, we never want to compare them.
Because then it would make her question herself, like, oh, maybe I should, but I don't desire it. So does that something wrong with me? But that's just not how
we
she's
don't embarrass
made.
any of our children.
Yeah.
And we also don't force them to feel like they have to act like another person with their love language.
But I will tell you that like the kids are cute though, because as much as they understand this, it's fun watching them even try to fill our love tanks.
I know they're so
they
good
really
about
do
it.
Like Bella, I know she's not really a physical touch person, but whenever we do anything, like we're going somewhere to the store, quality time, like she'll hold my hand, but I know it's for me, it's not for her.
Oh, for sure.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
She loves the quality time, but she'll hold my hand. And it's like, it's so cool. It's like, this whole podcast, what's it for? It's how to raise champion kids. Yeah. In a crazy world. And one of the ways you can do it is by understanding each other, letting people feel understood, letting them feel loved fully in a healthy way, in a way that we're designed to feel it, not in an unhealthy way, right?
Well, and that's another good point, that to do that, we have to get out of our comfort zone sometimes. Yep. I can't reiterate that enough sometimes that, we're going to have to, if you want to raise real champion children, you're going to have to get out of your comfort zone to be the best example to them. And how can you do that? By studying all of this information and then applying it so that your kids can see that you're trying. None of our kids expect us to do things perfectly. They really don't. In fact, they're thankful when we don't, because then they know that, oh, good, we're all in this together.
Yeah.
But what they do like to see is that parents are willing and that we're trying and that we're willing to get out of our comfort zones. I mean, if one of your love languages isn't necessarily, like you said, physical touch or whatever it may be, there's nothing wrong just being like, okay, I'm going to do it today. Even if you feel awkward, I'm going to do, like, you don't have to speak it out loud. Just get out of your comfort zone and do it.
Yeah.
Or rub your child's back, or, even if your comfort zone isn't necessarily give a lot of words of affirmation, maybe you didn't grow up that way.
Yeah.
And it almost feels awkward to get it out of your mouth. Get out of your comfort zone. Find something great that your kids did and let them know, because that is what we want to do. We want to teach our kids that we're willing to get out of our comfort zone. So then you ultimately will get out of your comfort zone. And together we're going to move forward.
Right. I'll make another point here that I think is important. It's also important to educate kids on the proper people you should get your love tank filled from.
That's a good point too.
Because again, it's all understanding though. But like we had to do it with Jerus, where even though he's just a young, innocent boy, when he was even really little, I mean, he's trying to, people would come over that aren't even people we know well. And he's hugging on their legs and trying to climb up on them and trying to kiss them sometimes and stuff because he's just so affectionate. And we had to be like, this isn't where you get this from, And we did it nicely, but we had to build it in.
And we did it privately,
and be aware
never
of
in front
it,
of anybody
right?
else. We didn't.
It's like my daughter, our daughters, the age that they're at right now. Man, if they had empty love tanks and they have a physical touch love language and I'm not feeling it, they're going to look for a guy to do that, but because we're so on it, they don't have to. And they know that. And so they know what's appropriate and what's not. They know even when they recognize other people's love languages that it isn't necessarily their job to fill them.
Well, no, personal space is a real thing, and there's got to be boundaries with all that kind of stuff too. And we can talk more about that in the future, but it is important for everybody to understand in your household again, what that looks like and how we feel in our household. And then how other people, we got to give them the opportunity to do it in their household. As much as we love some people, sometimes it's not our job to do it. But it is neat if you can discuss it within your household. And then if you have extended family willing to do it too, your kids get double blessing. I mean, my parents are always filling up our kids' love tanks with quality time and gifts and, hugs or, words of affirmation or, whatever it may be. The kids get double, all around, it feels like. And I think because of that, they feel more confident than ever.
Yeah. I'll make another point here that just popped in my head. I think it's Holy Spirit, actually. But, when you think about love languages, it's pretty easy to get along with people who have the same love languages. Like it's just very natural. So for instance, me and Drew's, my primary is physical touch. My secondary is words of affirmation. What's Drew's? Physical touch, words of affirmations. You know what we do all day long? We wrestle, we play. When we're not even playing, like literally we snuggle up together. Like we're constantly in each other's space, touching and hanging out and feeling, just like part of that. But it's so easy for me because it's what I want to and it's what he wants. So it isn't like either one of us has to try to think about it. So it's like, oh man, he's my boy. We're just so naturally connected. You know what I mean? Like this is easy. And even with the words thing, like we're always, man, Drews is a sweetheart. He's always saying positive things and we say positive things to him all day long. But it's really, really so I think there's a danger in like or an immaturity that could show up if I just said, well, obviously God just intended it for me to be connected to Drews, right? As he's my number one, like almost my quote unquote favorite kid. Not that we have favorites, you know what I'm saying? Like, but he's the natural, but it's not true. It's not the way God meant it. Just because somebody doesn't have my love languages, it doesn't mean that it is unnatural to show them love. It's just I have to do a little bit extra work. I just think that there's so much in society today where people say, well, that's not my natural personality, so therefore I won't do it. Or I'm not naturally an organized person, so I won't be organized. Or it's like, no, these are things that you have to go after. And maybe just because it's not natural, then do the work to do it because it still matters. Right?
Well, again, I just want to bring it back to another point that we take time to do things all the time for maybe our job that are not natural, or we, plan things out for our future that are not natural or that don't come natural, I should say. We stretch ourselves to do things for ourselves when we want to. But if we don't plan out and effectively decide to stretch ourselves in our own family units, the most important thing to us, then how do we actually expect it to thrive and be healthy? Just because it doesn't come easy doesn't mean you're not supposed to do it.
That's right.
We can do hard things.
That's right. Because they matter.
Because they matter.
And that really expresses the love that you're trying to express.
And I think then the mature thing to do is when you see somebody working hard to do something that stretches them, that you reciprocate it, even if they did it awkward.
Oh, are you touching my foot right now?
Well, I know how much you love physical touch, babe. I stretched it all the way out. I've been waiting this whole podcast.
Well, I've been thinking about how close you are, but it hasn't happened
I
yet.
know.
I was wondering.
So
Anxiety was building.
I know. I figured.
I want to make one last point before we cut this off. I don't want to go too long, but the reality is I think a lot of us too have to just continuously recognize that many of us didn't grow up with understanding this because our parents were never taught this and didn't grow up with understanding this. Like I'm not a fan of playing victim to what we didn't get, because we all could go down that path, but you can't be a victim and a victor at the same time. Mm-hmm. So even though we didn't get something, just means, well, thank God that we are learning it now, and let's start applying it. And because otherwise you can go down the, boy, I wish somebody would have built this into me, and boy, I wish somebody else would have, modeled this for me. But it's like, okay, but now you know, so let's do something with it. And I know this, like I didn't get affection from my dad. Think about being knowing now, thinking back, like a physical touch kid and words of affirmation. And my dad was not the guy to ever say anything of fluffy, nice words. He's probably said, I love you maybe once in my life. You know what I mean? And he wasn't the type of guy to ever like give a hug or anything, because he just thought it was just being kind of weak. But I will tell you, just because that happened, I can imagine what he went through as well. And I don't resent him for it at all. I just realize it is what it is. But at the same time, I am not going to ever use that as an excuse to not give my son what he needs, and so it has been a joy. I will tell you, when you can break off some of these generational curses like that, mm-hmm. because you do it through a level of forgiveness, first of all, and an understanding of what your parents where they were and what they did and didn't know. And you and I have this philosophy. I think people they were doing the best they could with what they knew. And let's honor them for that, right?
1,000%.
But that doesn't also get us off the hook from being better. Once we start learning some stuff, I love the affection I have with my son. Like, people probably even think it's a little bit weird. He's 11 years old, and we'll still be walking through a grocery store and we're holding hands sometimes. And I watch people kind of look at us sometimes, and most of the time you can tell it's almost like, gosh, I wish my son still wanted to hold my hand or something like that. I don't know. I am going to keep loving on that boy and my girls, and we're going to keep filling their love tanks. I heard at a men's leadership one time, it was so powerful. You know, we were fighting all this stuff in this crazy world, right? Fighting all this stuff, all this different influence and all this gender confusion and all this other stuff that's just going on. You're like, how are people even falling to this? Well, we're talking about it today, right? I mean, I heard somebody say one time, if you kiss your son, he'll never kiss another man. And I remember hearing that and thinking, you know, it's all about feeling the needs that a person has. And if it comes from parents that are doing the best with what they currently know, and I want to encourage you parents, if you listen to this, even if you haven't been doing this and you didn't know, you were doing the best you could with what you knew, but now let's pick up our game. Right? We're going to raise champion kids in this crazy world, but we all got to level up our game, and we'll do it together. We'll do it as a community. We'll hold each other accountable. We'll keep trying. We may not do it perfect, but doggone it, we're going to keep getting better and better at this. And our next generation is going to show up like, wow, we had that built into us, and they're going to build it into the next generation after that. And we'll just really start making a change that way.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I love it.
Okay. All right. On to the next one. Hey everyone, thanks for listening and thanks for your love and support. We hope that today's episode added tremendous value to you and your family. It would mean so much to us if you would partner with us on our mission of helping parents around the globe raise champion children in this crazy world.
To do so, simply take a moment to like and share this podcast with everyone in your network. And we have great news. You get more of us. You can expect new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning. So be sure to consistently tune in with us and enjoy our show. See you next time.